Hey, it's Chuck. We are not bemoaning the noon kickoff. We are now owning it. It's a badge of honor. We're the lunatic fringe that defines our coach's legacy when it comes to this game. They don't get to define that outside the family. We're cut from a different cloth. We're Ohioans. He's got it all, man. He's even got the jaw. You know the jaw. You see that jaw, and you're just like, yeah, man, that's a dude. Do I want Michigan to beat Oklahoma? No way in hell. I don't know what world I'm living in. This is insane to me. And if you saw my outburst, I apologize. It's showtime now. And welcome into Buckeye Huddle Prime Time. Appreciate you so much for joining us on a Wednesday. Tonight, Tony Gerdeman will be joining me. We're talking O-line, running backs. We're talking about the rivalry as a new book has dropped. Some Julian Sayin, some Ohio State disrespect. If you got any questions for me or Tone, send them in the form of a question. Make sure you put the question mark, right? You have to put that question mark and it'll stand out for us so we can answer those. But we will now bring in our man, Tony Gerdeman, and get this on and popping. Tone, what's up, brother?
Not much. How you doing?
Very good. Tony, the other day I was talking about Steve Sarkisian giving up play calling. I'm sure you saw this comment. He does not want to give up play calling. And I'm looking at this guy who just lost to Ryan Day twice in less than a year. And you got to think like he's looked at this and considered, well, he gives it up and boom, things go really good for him. You got Billy Napier, wouldn't give up the play calling, and now he's out of a job. Not that that would have helped him, I don't think. But I look at stubbornness as a common trait in these head football coaches. They all seem to have it. We've seen it throughout our lives from Ohio State football coaches, and it's just like they're a real stubborn breed. And I don't know what it is that gives them that drive to get there, but they all seem to have it. And I guess it's probably a blessing and a curse, but they're all so doggone stubborn. And last year, heading into the game as a 24-point favorite, I thought it was a foregone conclusion that Ohio State was going to win that game. No chance they lose. And obviously, they lose in a way that a lot of people come out of it thinking that was a stubborn game plan by Ryan Day, who wanted to win that on his terms. That was the common theme. Did you come out of that game feeling that way?
Yeah, in parts. They wanted to show that they could win it on the ground against a team that wins games on the ground. But I also do believe them when they talk to, Chip Kelly and Ryan Day talk about when they were being backed up a lot in that game. And so that just lends to running the ball, trying to not make mistakes down there. Because we did see Will Howard make mistakes down there. But also I do think Will Howard was a little fuzzy after he got hit and he got cleared and came back. But he was not playing well before the hit. He was not playing well after the hit. I think it's a perfect storm of poor game planning, poor field position, poor quarterback play. I think the defense did enough, but as always, they kind of, not as always, but just fade down the stretch against Michigan. Because in all of these losses, even the blowouts in 21 and 22, those were one-score games late in the fourth quarter. And
Right.
So, like, the games are always close, but yeah, you feel like with a more aggressive passing game against that secondary, things would have been better, but they just didn't want to throw out of their end zone, I guess.
Yeah, definitely that. I mean, there's certainly something to that, and definitely something to Will Howard. I remember the press conference immediately after the game was just a bit shell-shocked, but the Tuesday press conference, he seemed to really want to push back against that. He didn't seem to want to cede that point, talked about how many passes that they threw, etc. And it was just like, that is not what I was doing. But, it's clear that the soft stuff did get under his skin. He kind of let the world see that at Notre Dame with the comments of the Lou Holtz thing. It was clear that that's something that's been bothering him. So Bill Rabinowitz writes a book. Bill Rabinowitz, formerly of the Columbus Dispatch, still on the beat. And after the national championship, he goes and talks to a lot of people, does a lot of interviews. And one of the people he interviews was Mitchell Melton. And he's released this excerpt of what Mitchell Melton said to him. And I wanted to go over this with everybody. So Mitchell Melton quoted as saying, and he's talking about the famous, infamous meeting that the players had with Coach Day. He said, I raised my hand and I asked Coach Day, these past 2 years losing, what did you learn? Melton said. He said, Coach Day began to answer, talking about scheme that didn't satisfy Melton. He said, Day talked about the game that we needed to establish the run game because the winner of the OSU Michigan game tends to be whichever team has the more rushing yards. But that can be effect rather than cause. Teams run more when they're ahead. Melton and probably others believed that coaches knew Michigan was a ground-based offense and stubbornly wanted to beat the Wolverines at their own game. Quote, Melton, I realized soon after the game that was very prideful of us in our own right, and it cost us the Big Ten championship. What I wanted out of that meeting was for us to be very honest with ourselves, clear on what happened so it would never happen again. That got the ball rolling to what became a very contentious meeting. Other players challenged Day when he gave answers they deemed unsatisfactory. This meeting, Tony, I mean, this thing is just like, it's going to go down in the annals of Ohio State history. If there was a camera, I don't know what I would pay to watch it, but it would be a lot of dollars, a lot of American dollars I would pay to watch this meeting. I ordered this book already. Tony, why didn't you write this book? This is what we want, man. We want the goods, Tone.
Talked with one publisher and they're like, well, Triumph is already doing a book with Bill Rabinowitz, and there's only so much market. So that's why there's, really only one major book. But Bill's a good person to write it. He I was talking with him about some of it, and he said the amount of time that he spent talking to people, I think he said he was on a call with Jim Knowles for like 3 hours while Jim Knowles was like driving somewhere, and they just talked about this whole thing and everything for a while. So I'm sure that's only one of the many, many conversations. And frankly, talking to Mitchell Melton is, above and beyond, because you're talking about what the fourth or fifth, sixth defensive end,
yep,
and getting something good out of that. So certainly no stone unturned there with that, but there is so much with that meeting, and it will go down. We talk about the Holy Buckeye or Keith Byers' shoe. That meeting should be one that on some sort of a Mount Rushmore, because talking with the players at the combine last year, like, what was the biggest moment of the year? Is it's like, well, losing to Michigan, and then talking about losing to Michigan, and opening up all the wounds and basically cleaning them out. Just like all of the old Westerns, like dabbing them with alcohol or whatever, throwing the gunpowder in there and lighting it up, and getting it all cleaned out. And it takes a very, I don't know, a mature person like Ryan Day just to basically sit in front of all of these people, all of these young guys,
yep,
reading them the riot act. And at first, Day was a little defensive, but then he was like, well, I'm hearing what you're saying. And so then he allowed it to kind of wash over him, and they came out a different team for it. And you see James Franklin, what has happened at Penn State. You lose to Oregon, then you lose after that. Like, Ohio State loses to Oregon, they had a bye week to deal with it. Ohio State loses to Michigan, they had weeks to deal with it. I wonder what happens to Ohio State if they had a game after Michigan. Like, say they have Tennessee or something like that after that Michigan game. How do they do? Probably not very well. So they got some fortunate timing on that, but they came out of that Michigan game eventually a different team, and I don't know that they win it all without that loss.
That's a great point, Tony, because even when we look at after that bye after Oregon, you had the Nebraska game, and I thought that Nebraska game was their poorest, lackluster effort of the year. Like, yeah, they didn't play well, but it just seemed like they didn't, almost the body language, like they didn't even want to be there. And I never really put that into the terms of watching Penn State. That Oregon game tanked their whole season. It seemed like, and I was just talking to Landon Tangwell earlier today, Penn State guy, about that game, the Oregon game, almost like they must have had so much riding on that being the measuring stick for whether or not they could get this done. And when it tanked, that was it, man. It was like total give up mode, and they never got it together. It's gone.
They got their answer. That was and yet they couldn't deal with the answer then afterwards, and that's when Ohio State's been able to deal with the answers. They don't necessarily like the outcome, but mature enough and capable enough, and frankly talented enough to deal with the answers that come from it. And back to the stubbornness of coaches. You get to this level, it's like I got to this level by doing it the way I do it. So why would I listen to anybody? But I remember being at the with the Cotton Bowl when you got Eli Drinkwitz and Ryan Day sitting on the same
Yeah.
dais, and Eli Drinkwitz talking about what a great idea it was, what a great job by him to give up the play calling, and how much of a benefit it was to him and the Missouri offense and the Missouri team as a whole to give up play calling. And Ryan Day's just like looking at him, you're looking at Ryan Day, and you're looking at Ryan Day, look at him. And so then afterwards you ask Ryan Day, like, did that have anything to do with your decision to give up play calling? He said he had decided before that to do that, but it was just interesting to see, like, you can see him just talking about this weight that has been lifted off of him by not calling plays in terms of Eli, and then Ryan Day give up play calling and then go win a national championship. I mean, is it just a coincidence?
Right. Eli went in on it so much and elaborated so hard on it, how great it was. It almost felt like he was poking at him. And knowing that guy's personality, I wouldn't be surprised if that's what he was doing. But going back to the game, people talked for a while that they thought Ryan Day had a Michigan problem. I didn't believe that. And his comments leading up to that game in particular, when he talked about how painful it was for him, and then he brought up his dad in the same sentence, not something we would have heard John Cooper say, we'll put it that way. And in the way that it really affected him like that, I loved hearing that from him. But then you go to the end of that game and kind of the catatonic look, the way he couldn't even react to get the players off the field. That right then, I was like, okay, I think there is something here with him in this particular game. And I think he does have a Michigan problem as we roll into this next game here. You do the Michigan Mondays. You're really familiar with the team. Like, how do you feel the matchup is? How do you feel this is for him? Do you feel like the weight might be lifted? Because there's some of that for me. Like, okay, you've now provided the university, the city, the state with a national championship. Does this now maybe ease your mind?
I think it's a different kind of weight, maybe not on the shoulders, but in the gut type of thing that just builds and builds, and you've got to deal with it. And maybe it doesn't show from the outside, but it's eating you up on the inside. And, everybody knows you don't need to win that game any longer to go and reach your ultimate goal. That's a thing of the past, of the 80s, 70s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. And now, like, it's just in terms of your ability to reach your ultimate goals, it's just another game, except it is also one of your goals to win that game, win the Big Ten, and then go win a national title. So, like, in terms of is there an issue? Like, clearly losing that game, I remember getting up to the post game and just like, Tom got up there, Tom Moore, and we just looked at each other like, this was unbelievable. Like, how do you even talk about how do you go into this? Because this was not supposed to happen. And even in the other losses to Michigan, like, those were toss-ups essentially.
Yeah, you can understand
this,
it. Yeah.
right. And this was like Purdue coming in and beating Ohio State, and like, what just happened? How did this happen? And so it's easy to say, like, well, he's got a Michigan problem. And I think if that loss doesn't, almost should it erase that Michigan problem, because now that it was your fault, essentially. Like, you could take ownership, like, this was my fault. This is not some football gods thing or anything like that. It's like, you play this game 15 times, you should win it 12 or 13 with any other kind of game plan. And so you take ownership of that, and you're like, well, I'm never letting that happen again. And as long as I don't let that happen again, then how does a Michigan loss to Michigan happen? Except Michigan is not bad this year, so it can still happen, because on the road, man, I always say this: you can't apologize for any win on the road in the Big Ten. You take what you can get, and however you can get it, whether it's 1 point or 18, If you get it, you take it and you run, especially in a rivalry game. But I think this Michigan team is limited offensively, limited in the secondary. And when Bryce Underwood won't be a true freshman quarterback by the time Ohio State plays him. But I don't know that I know that he's not seen anything like Ohio State's defense yet, and he won't.
Right. I don't know how you watch them every week. When they're playing good, I just get infuriated. So I can't do it. But I'll tune in a little bit early on to see if the opposing team is giving them a game always, and watched quite a bit of the Washington game until they started pulling away. Unfortunately, DeMond Williams decided to have his worst game of the year. But I don't know. The guy looks threatening, but I don't see him being able to run on Ohio State. Obviously that Arvell spy role is now legendary. Mm-hmm. If he can stop DeMond Williams in that role, he can stop Bryce from running. And as far as the passing game, Andrew Marsh has been coming on a little bit. Donovan McCulley, he's good. He's got some size, but it's not clicking like any way that makes me feel threatened that they can put up more than a couple touchdowns at most on this team. But we've seen that be enough to win just last year. I just don't see it, man. I don't see it. And I'm starting to feel like, am I getting too cocky? But again, it's up there, which is always rough. But there is something about this. Like, we haven't seen a win since 2019 in this game. It just feels like there's no way that they can let it happen. And when we talk about the game, that it is devalued in terms of, yes, each individual game in the regular season is somewhat devalued now that you can lose 2 and make the postseason. That's just mathematical, but there's more to football fandom than just the postseason, right? It's the ultimate goal, yes, but that doesn't take away the meaning that game has to me and a whole lot of people. And you can just look back to the reaction after that game. Like, half the Ohio State fan base wanted the national championship winning coach terminated. That's how much meaning that game has. So there's value to the postseason and there's meaning. Meaning is in here. It means a whole lot to me, man. This has got to be done this year. Got to.
I mean, I'm with you in that it's my favorite rivalry in sports, and there's no close second even now, because we talk about how it's devalued, but how does everybody feel after they lose? Does it feel devalued to you? Absolutely not. It feels as valued as ever.
Yeah.
And the longer the losing streak gets, it becomes more and more valued. What devalued it for Ohio State fans a few years back was winning it all the time and thinking that it was owed to them. And it's never owed to anybody. And once you start thinking it is owed to you, you deserve to lose it. And I'm not saying the Ohio State sphere, deserve to lose it, but just be careful when you start thinking things are owed to you. Kind of like Michigan fans believe things are owed to them now, and that this is just we win it every year. It's like, well, you've won it a few years in a row. Just be careful with that attitude. But yeah, I think with you look at what Michigan has, and there's nothing truly scary. Even Justice Haynes, a little banged up right now, but if he doesn't hit his home runs, then it's you're not too worried about him. But against Ohio State, Michigan has hit their home runs in the running game. They will find a fluke big play here or there to get the bulk of a drive. They their defensive line it comes and goes. Their pass rush comes and goes, but they will change some things up as well. Jayshon Barham at linebacker edge. He is what Michigan fans say he is basically what Arvell Reese is. And
he's
it's like,
poor man's Arvell.
I didn't want to say that, but you know what we're talking about. I don't believe their secondary can handle Ohio State. As long as Julian Sayin has time to throw the ball, they're going to throw on Michigan, I believe. Now, will they choose to throw? That's the question. And as Ryan Day, last year they ran 26 times and threw 33 times. I don't know how much of that was the last drive or two they had to throw the ball. So, that's why the numbers are skewed that way. But I feel like as long as you can protect Julian Sayin, it's going to be okay for Ohio State. But we also have not seen him play in a bad weather game. So we have no idea how that's going to go.
Right. I thought it was really the whole Penn State situation with talking about, being owed to you, the fact that so many of the folks, I mean, all around the country just kind of felt like it's Penn State's turn. You really pushed back hard against that, which I really liked what you had to say about that. It's just nobody's turn. Nobody's owed anything because you get these guys to come back and you pay for them. You have to go through and win this thing. It's not just someone's turn. Good stuff, Tone.
Especially when you look at the schedule and you're like, well, you have to go to Ohio State. I couldn't believe, I could absolutely believe why a lot of people got this wrong and everybody was picking Penn State to win the Big Ten. But it's like, have you looked at their schedule? Do you see that they have to go to Ohio State? Does that not mean anything to you? Not that Ohio State doesn't win as equally as often in Happy Valley as they do in Columbus.
I had someone on, not an Ohio State fan, last week. I got a lot of Buckeye fans mad at me. He asked me, do I value the national championship less in 2024 because of the loss in the game? And I said, no, I don't value it less, but ranking in order, if I've got to rank them, it's an easy tick that puts it below, because I think 02, 14, and 24 all have something spectacularly unique about them. But the other two don't have that tick. When you're wearing that national championship shirt with the scores on the back, that one's got something that has kept me from buying that shirt, quite honestly. I got some heat. I got some blowback from that, Tone. I don't know, man. How do you rank them? I got 02 on top for me.
Well, here's the thing. It's the most difficult national championship ever in the history of college football. So, like, in that regard, it's the best ever. It's number one. But it's also been, the 2002 was 34 years since the last real national champion. The 2014 was 12 years since the 2002. And so this one has been a shorter wait, and they've been close to getting it done. And so, for that reason, maybe it's because it's recent enough for a lot of people, it would be third, but also because of that Michigan game, yeah, it's probably going to be third as well. But, the 2002 team only played one postseason game. 2014 team played 2 postseason games. 2024 team played 4. And they played high-ranked teams and went through, and the run that they went on last year, it's the greatest run ever in college football, other than what Alabama has done these last 4 weeks. I'm sure we would all agree with that, with their 4 ranked wins.
It's never happened in the history of the SEC, Tony. The way they're talking about it, man, unbelievable.
So, but like, I understand for the 2002 team. I think that 2002 will. I would bet, and maybe you can just tell me, like, that's number one for most people. Most living people now would say that one. And then, the 2014 team, with how they had to do it, it carries some special significance as well with the quarterback situation.
Yeah.
And then this last one, the first team to ever, go through that and beat 4 teams, like, there's some legitimacy that goes beyond any Michigan game in that type of situation.
For sure. They're all the circumstance behind each one. Like, Miami in itself, and you had the overtime games, and you had Holy Buckeye, like, just getting there in 02, I think for most people my age, because we'd never seen that it was the first time for somebody my age. I'm 48, 46 now. And I was I was in my 20s. So that, like, it was a long time. I had never seen that. Never seen the Buckeyes get that far and really have that shot right there at the end. Seen a lot of teams that I thought had the opportunity to do it, but never actually get there. And that OT2 team didn't feel like it would be the one. It didn't feel like that until, we started getting on and on and on. So you get that build up, and then the Miami team was just invincible, right? Like, nobody gave us a shot, and the way that all went down. And then the game, of course, itself was like, man, it was just perfect to me. Like, I don't think anything could ever trump that as far as, like, a fan's experience through that season.
Well, even you even had, after the last pass falls incomplete, I remember thinking, yep, that's how this goes. It's like,
yeah,
we got close. You got close, and this is the only way it was ever going to go. And then the flag comes out, and you're like, or is it?
Right.
Like, so you had the emotion of, gosh darn it. And then also the emotion of, oh, let's see what happens here.
I don't resent Miami fans for hating us for being on the other side of that. I really don't. I get it. I would hate somebody forever being on the other side of that. It took a long time for that flag to come out.
But also, as I like to point out to people, the referee magazine years later called it the best call of, of the decade or whatever. Like, there's an actual referee magazine that was all over that with all of the angles and saying, yes, this was a good call, best call, these are the types of refs you need to be. And so, yeah, Terry Porter, live forever.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's talk about the Buckeyes. Let's talk about this run game. We had the gluttony of tight ends, right? The first 6 weeks of the season, 7 weeks of the season. And the Buckeyes going to Wisconsin. I think this was like everybody had just had enough of the tight ends. And it was clear that Ohio State themselves was either trying something new with the RPO game. We're going to go to 11 personnel and not so many of these 13, 14 personnel sets. But you get to the game, axe the tight end bonanza, and all of a sudden, the offensive line plays their sloppiest game of the season. Even guys that are just reliable as heck, like Austin Cerebell's getting beat, giving up pressures in the game early on. He fixed it. Phil Daniels gave up 6 pressures. He had only had 2 the entire season. And you had the Tegra stuff, and it's just like, I'm starting to worry. Was the heavy sets to protect this? Is this related? I don't know, Tone. I don't think it is, but it does got me somewhat scared.
Well, and I think that's a good point where why are they playing all of these tight ends? It doesn't help the offense. And then you see the offensive line without the extra help, and nobody was perfect. And there were some really poor plays from every single one of them.
Yep.
But like, a tight end shouldn't matter to Luke Montgomery. A tight end shouldn't matter to Tigris Ebola. So it's like, and not that Luke Montgomery was bad, but he had plays where he'd like to have back. So yeah, it's interesting to where maybe this is just, how like running backs need a bunch of plays. I think maybe the offensive line needs a bunch of plays and just 11 personnel, and to not have the ability to rely on a little extra help outside or something like that, where they need to do a bunch of this because they've been doing so much 12 and 13, and they're going to continue doing 12 as well. I assume it's probably pretty close to an even split. But it was interesting to see, like, the only time I think we saw 13 and 14 is in short yardage situations rather than starting a drive on first down like we have kind of all season long at times. And then it's no secret then that also helps the passing game when you have more receivers on the field. But yeah, I don't know, the running game itself is, maybe we'll see it continue to get better if Isaiah West, does something. But right now he's doing kind of a little bit of what Bo Jackson was doing earlier in the season. Question is, can you do that consistently? Can you continue to expand that? And I don't know. And with the RPOs, they rush for 98 yards or whatever, but I would be interested to go back and see, and I didn't chart it, how many of their passing yards came from the RPO, because the coaches are going to just add that to the rushing yards, which is fine. But the thing I keep pointing out and keep saying is that's all fine and accurate, but in the actual running plays, you average 3 yards a carry, and that's not good enough. And so, and Julian Sayin got pressured more than ever in this past game. So they've got some things they need to work on, which is good, frankly, over the next week or so. And then we'll see if they decide to make any changes up front. I think a lot of people are clamoring for it.
Yeah. I mean, well, you saw what Tegra was given away about 15 snaps. And then this game, it got up to 26 snaps, but now for Padilla. And on Tuesday in that abbreviated press conference, Ryan Day didn't. So I remember when he was asked specifically about Brandon Inniss, and I went back to this. So he was asked about Brandon Inniss in the punt returns, and he put his flag in the ground, like, absolutely, like, Brandon's our guy. He made some mistakes. He was asked specifically about Tegra, and he went to, we're going to review the whole team. And then he said, and that'll include Tegra. He didn't plant his flag, and I'm sure he knows the heat, and he knows, like, after a game like that. And honestly, it's been a lot of games for Tegra where we've seen these, a hiccup here, a hiccup there, a penalty here and there. Guys started 24 games at Ohio State now, and it seems like you should be past this. I felt Padilla he wasn't perfect either. He had some plays too, but he did a pretty damn good job. I feel like his floor right now is about where Tegra is. Honestly, it would seem to me like this would probably be a good time to maybe give him the bulk of those snaps and maybe give Tegra the 15 if you're going to do that.
Yeah, I would agree. You've got time now. And I believe Josh Padilla graded out a champion against Illinois and close maybe this week. But yeah, it's when you're rotating Tegra with Ethan Onionwa to start the season, and then Ethan Onionwa probably can't play here. So then you rotate him with Josh Padilla, and it's like, well, Josh Padilla deserves to play, but we don't want to put him at center because that changes so many things. So we'll thought, well, let's just try him at right guard. And so at some point, like you're continuing to look for a solution at right guard, and you can dress it up however you want, but why isn't Josh Padilla playing left guard? So it's like you can dress it up however you want, but this is the situation. You continue to mix somebody else in there, and I think they wanted to get as much information regarding Josh as possible so that they could make a more educated decision. But it feels inevitable that eventually that's going to be his job, don't you think?
I feel like it. I mean, and if it is, I think you got a nice little window here before you get to crunch time to really give him the serious audition. All right, man, here you go. Let's see what you got now with all the pressure on you. You're starting. I mean, it's a different ball game when you're that guy. So looking forward to it. I was excited to see Isaiah. I thought he runs obviously at a different style than Bo, and the eyes are always up. He's always setting up downfield, and he's just he's never going to be a great dynamic back. He's just damn effective. He's good at what he does. He's a good, solid back. He's big enough. He's powerful enough. I was so happy to see it, man. I think he's an awesome dude.
Well, and you're right. His head is up, and that's one thing that you're not necessarily seeing from Bo Jackson right now, where he's just point and shoot and going in the direction of the play is designed, whereas Isaiah is looking for something more. And I just remember that the 2002 team, like Maurice Claret, he had to dodge the first guy on about 80% of his carries. There's always somebody seemingly trying to get him in the backfield. So that tells you, one, you don't need a great offensive line to win a national championship. You need some great players and maybe a really good defense. But Isaiah West, you've talked about the broken tackles or the missed tackles, that he had 4 in that game, and CJ Daniels has had 2 all season.
Yeah.
And it's like we saw CJ Daniels perhaps have his best run, and it was like 12 yards, and he was untouched until he got touched. And it's like, this is it. A 12-yard run shouldn't stand out. And that's where we are right now with the Ohio State running situation, where it's like, wow. It's like, well, that was 12 yards. I mean, you should have 3 of those, 4 of those a game rather than once a month, where you're like, oh my gosh, take a picture.
Yeah.
Send it to the family. And I do believe they're going to eventually get there. What is there? I don't think you need to rush for 180 yards a game to win it all. I just think you need to be timely. And when you have this defense, that will help. But when Ryan Day 2 weeks ago, last week, said they haven't really started drawing up the running plays that, that are designed to hit home runs. I wonder if that starts getting implemented here pretty soon. Or do they still need more information? They do need more information on the running backs. Are they waiting to get more information on that before they start dialing up the home runs? It's like, I don't know if you need to wait for that,
Yeah.
But
I don't know I understand why there's been some waiting on some things here this year as they've gone along, but that one doesn't seem like one of those to me. But when he was asked about, the hierarchies, unfortunately, I'm not there yet. Which I don't know, man. I think it's pretty clear. But what I like, it's all good. You got a couple games here where you can play around with it, but I still don't think we've seen any of these backs in any one game be able to get in a rhythm. It just has always felt like we're doing this. Now this guy's coming out. He's coming in on third down. Now the next series, it's the other guy. And it seems like a disadvantage for every one of them that they can't get in a groove. Or maybe I'm just wishing that it'll be better if they got in a groove, but it hasn't been good all year. It hasn't at any point felt like, yeah, this is the ticket right here. It's just not ever felt like that. And I really want it to. I worry this might be a team that we never get to that point.
Well, and, getting into a groove, Travion Henderson's high watermark last year was 12 carries in a game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like I wonder, because I'm with you, but it's like, is that old thinking?
Yeah.
Where it's not going to be part of this team, because you've got to get into your groove in 3 carries. And if you're waiting till that third carry, well, you're probably not going to get a fourth carry. So it's very difficult. But yeah, I mean, Day and Coach Locke and all these guys will talk about competitive excellence. When your number is called, you got to be able to go. But then in the same breath, you'll hear running backs coaches talk about, getting into that groove, getting the sweat, getting all of these things that every running back needs. And it's like, well, not until the 13th or 14th carry do I start, really, feel good about where I'm going to go. It's like, well, you're not getting a 13th or 14th carry. We've had this year, CJ Donaldson and Bo Jackson over a 12 carries, I think, this season, just once each. So, and Quinshon Judkins had his high watermark last year was 17 carries. J.K. Dobbins would have 17 carries in the first half in 2019. So it's just a different game. You've got to get it while you've got a shot. And if you can't, then somebody else is going to get an opportunity. If they can't, then somebody else is going to get an opportunity, and it's just going to keep being passed around. And you may just all season long just keep passing it around until you realize, like, well, in this last game, you saw James Peoples with no carries and CJ Donaldson with 2. And you wonder if at some point, is Bo Jackson never going to go back to 4 or 5 carries? I don't know that that's going to happen, but at some point, yeah, they're not ready to cut guys down, but it sure looks like they did in this last game.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I don't think that was just to see an audition. I mean, like, obviously the plan, I don't think, was ever to see Isaiah West in this kind of role this year. That wasn't the plan. That's a product of, it not going great with 1 and 2. They was also asked about the wide receivers, and we saw obviously Quincy Porter with a couple of catches, looked pretty good with one of them. He's obviously physically ready. He's talked recently about Mylan Graham practicing better, which makes me think maybe there's something to that. Like maybe it hasn't been great at practice. I don't know. Everybody's been clamoring to see him since the spring game a little more, but he brought up Bryson as well, will be healthy and he'll be back. And he talked about kind of Jeremiah and Carnell need some of that. They need to be spelled. I found it really interesting because, like, he talked about it like that's just, that's the way it is. But in fact, that's never been the way it is. They don't rotate wide receivers. I don't know why he's talking about this like this is just, this is. Do you think we're going to start seeing a wide receiver rotation here?
I don't know about rotation, but I do think, whatever snaps, I don't know what their numbers were this past week, but Quincy doesn't look out of place. Mylan Graham made a catch. It looked like Carnell Tate making a catch on the sideline. So, whether, 8 to 15 snaps a game, I think you continue to do that. And I always look back at Chris Olave in 2018 as a true freshman, where he played a little bit and then he got better and better and then was basically in the rotation by the end of the season. Unfortunately, in 2018, they were playing 20 more snaps a game than they do now. So it's hard to really increase numbers greatly just because there aren't numbers. But if Carnell Tate and JJ, they want a little bit of a break or need a little bit of a break, they'll probably never tell you. But
Right.
then if you notice it and watching it via their explosion or their what they're doing at the top of their routes in the late third quarter, maybe it becomes clearer to you that okay, they need some time off throughout the course of a game. That way they're more explosive than they are now late in the game. There's no reason not to do it. Ryan Day was always talking about limiting plays for players, and that's why they've gone to a slower pace. So if you're trying to protect players and limit players, why not encourage more rotation? Although I will say, these last couple of games, they're playing more plays and they're running a little bit more tempo. So I wonder if they're doing that to get more information before it's time to lock in everything and explain and proclaim who they are, or if it's just ongoing practice against Big Ten scheduling.
Which is really interesting in the whole schedule thing, and I'll get there in a minute. But I'm with you. Let's see. These guys are obviously ready. Let's see a little more. 8-10 snaps is cool. I want to remind everybody to please like today's show, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. And if you come join us on BuckeyeHuddle.com, you can get some amazing nuggets on the board like the one I put on the board the other day, that in 2018, if that team had gone on at the pace of play they played and won a national championship in 15 games, and this team goes on to win a national championship in 16 games, the 28 team would have played 4.5 more games worth of plays. That's how different we're talking. That's a lot of difference, Tone. 4.5 games worth of offensive plays more in one less game. That's crazy.
Well, yeah, the pace of play, the clock rules, like all of it, just a different time, different world in so many ways.
I miss it, but whatever. It is what it is.
You missed the 4 hours and 15-minute games, and
I tell you what, I'm kind of a stat junkie. I do miss because when I'm now trying to compare numbers, I have to consistently, but this is a lot different. It's like comparing what we used to do, Big 10 numbers versus Big 12 numbers, right? Like we've now got to do it just with eras.
It's the days of, like, when you go and look at Ohio State's all-time scoring teams, it's all of these 45-point per game teams from Ryan Day and Urban Meyer, and it's like you're probably never going to see that again, despite the talent being just as good as those teams.
Well, that 3-possession first half at Washington was just like smack me in the face, man. Like I can't stand this. But there was a turnover, but even still, 4 is just like, gosh, dude, this is horrible. I read a straw poll today on On3, Biletnikoff straw poll, and it had Mekhi Lemon number 1, the kid Bell from Louisville number 2, Jeremiah number 3, but Jeremiah had more touchdowns and more receptions than both number 1 and number 2. And I'm wondering how in the world you could possibly come to that conclusion when everybody in that poll, I think I've heard half of them say Jeremiah is the best player in college football. And it just, the way people don't give Ohio State people awards, and we can go all the way back to the Big Ten Coach of the Year, like, it blows my mind, dude. This guy's got more touchdowns and he's got more receptions, the top 3 categories, statistical categories that a wide receiver puts up, than the 2 guys you put in front of him. How do you justify this? If he doesn't win the Biletnikoff, I'm going to lose it this year, Tony.
Well, I also think there's going to be people who are, sometimes voters are often the smartest people in the sport. And they're going to let you know how smart they are by voting for somebody else. And Jeremiah Smith is also not just being judged against other people. He's being judged against last year and the expectations for this year. And so he's not being judged by, necessarily against what other people are doing. So if other people are doing something similar, then I'm going to give that person the benefit of the doubt, because again, I am very smart, and my vote will show you just how smart I am. I'm not going to fall for the one that everybody knows. Let me show you. Yeah, I know you like your bands, but let me tell you about my band that I like, that you've never heard of. I go see them at times. That's what this is. But also, we're very early, and the stats I think will come. You look back at Marvin Harrison, his junior year, where he had a couple of 20-yard reception, like 20-yard games because of, the quarterback situation and the defense situation. And that's just the way things shake at times. I do think one thing hurting Jeremiah Smith right now is no highlight catches, no one-handed catches. And I think, some of those some of those will get him right back out there. And that's the thing. Everybody knows him. Everybody talks about how he's the best this and the best that. But then when it comes time to vote him as the best receiver, it's like, well, if everybody knows that, then certainly we're missing something. Because again, Chuck, I'm very smart.
Yeah, indeed. The Heisman Trophy, Tony, I was looking yesterday, and the voting wraps up December 8th. The Big Ten Championship is December 6th. Right now, the top three, you've got Ty Simpson, Fernando, and Julian. If Julian does what it looks like I think he's likely to do, and it's set that all-time completion percentage record, I don't know who is going to make him drop off of that outside of potentially Michigan at the end of the year. And even still, you got another 4 games to pad that and insulate it from that one game deviating that 80% too much. He could go into that game, Indiana versus Ohio State, literally for the Heisman if Ty Simpson doesn't take this away from the two of them. And they just kind of, the Big Ten guys are too similar, we're going to give it to this guy. I think he's right there, man. I think he's right there, and he's wearing number 10, and I'm getting all excited. And a lot of people always tell me, wait, who cares about that? I care about the Heisman Trophy. It's been a long time. It's been a long time now, and we've been so close so many times. Like, that's a team award. I don't care what anybody says. That's a team award. And Ohio State has not won that award in a long time.
Beat Michigan, play undefeated Indiana for the Big Ten title, and that will also be for the Heisman, in my opinion. And it will be billed as such, and so then these voters will get swept up in it. And I think, why not? And we'll continue to see what Ty Simpson is doing. But one of my things, I think, pre-Ryan Day at quarterback at Ohio State, you'd look at these quarterback stats, through the first 8 games. But then November, everybody takes a dive. Like, everybody dips. Braxton and JT did as well, where it's like completion percentage is going to come down because the weather gets worse. And then, Ryan Day gets here with the NFL quarterbacks, and it's like, well, actually, Will Howard last year, 75% completion percentage in November and December. Like Dwayne Haskins, Justin Fields, CJ Stroud, things are fine in November. So things you assume will continue to be fine enough, and they'll handle the weather. But certainly no defenses should be able to limit what Julian Sayin is doing. It'll just be our guys catching the ball. Is the offensive line holding up? Because I expect him, I don't know if he's going to stick to 80, but like if he drops to 75% completion percentage over the course of the next 4 games, and then does enough to beat Michigan, just beat Michigan, and then maybe don't throw 3 interceptions. But I keep looking past the regular season to what that Big Ten championship game against Indiana could mean. And who would have ever thought, first, boy, if they could just get there and play Indiana, what a matchup, and what a opportunity, and this college football history happening right in front of us against the Indiana Hoosiers.
It's honestly, Tony, not a game I'm trying to think, all right, like, let's say this was against Oregon, potentially, like, I still wouldn't be too jazzed up for it. I would kind of be like, it's great to win the Big Ten championship, but really I'd rather have the home playoff game. But then you got the 17-game road if you don't win the thing, if you're the loser of it. So you gotta want to win it. And to be able to go get that matchup in Indy against Indiana and their story and everything that's going on, which I think this year we've witnessed the 2 most insane college football stories of my life, with the Penn State debacle in Indiana officially, I believe, cementing themselves as a elite football program. And I think they're here to stay. And that just blows my mind to say that. But we're going to go play them, I believe, in Indiana and in Indianapolis. That is going to be the most electric Big Ten championship ever. I've been to a couple of them. The last one that was any fun, really, what we lost the game was Michigan State, the Urban Meyer golf cart Papa John's moment. But that game was even still, it was tons of Buckeyes. I wonder what it'll even look like. How many Indiana folks are going to be there, right? I mean, it's in their home state. I would imagine a lot. I don't know how big the fan base is or how much it's caught on yet.
Well, and here's another thing for you, because I don't know how many Ohio State fans travel to Wisconsin or and then also travel to Illinois, because last year they realized, oh, there's a lot of traveling, and so the people that would go, I go to every road game. It's like, well, now maybe I go to one or two because I've got the postseason to worry about. So like, I also wonder like how many Buckeye fans are gonna hold off on a Big Ten championship game because they've got to afford 3 or 4 games after that. Will they make that decision? Even though it's going to be the cheapest ticket that you can get in the postseason if you can get it direct from the store, basically. But if you can't, then it's going to be very expensive. But I do wonder at what point Ohio State fans are like, how many are traveling to all of these games? Because I don't know that it's a large percentage.
Yeah, man, I could only cut one. I went to the Rose Bowl after the playoff game and at the shoe, and that was it. I couldn't justify blowing that kind of money again. No, I'm not blowing it. It would have been great to go to the Texas game, but it's just like, this is a lot of money here, man. A lot of money for a hobby, but hey, it's my favorite hobby.
It's a lot of money for a business too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You and Kevin had a discussion yesterday about a hypothetical a question. I found it really difficult and I put a lot of thought into it. But the question was, what are you more surprised by? Where Julian Sayin currently sits and stands on the team, how he's doing, or how the defense is currently doing, being the number 1 ranked defense in the country, quite possibly, maybe the best Ohio State defense of my life, which coming off of Jim Knowles leaving and going to Penn State, it's official. You did upgrade. Ryan Day found a way to upgrade from that, which will forever blow my mind. It's seemingly off of the NFL fired coach's scrap heap, right? And he upgraded it. So all props to him. But we talk about the personnel coming in. We talk about the defensive line, which was, I felt comfortable with it. The starters comfortable. I didn't feel great about it. Felt really kind of not good at all about the depth. The linebackers, I felt really good. I thought that you would upgrade athletically, maybe in the secondary, but Nickel's not going to be anywhere near Hancock. So to think that would actually get better, that was out of the question. I thought it could be a top 10 defense. If things broke right, stick around the top 10. You can win you a national championship with a top 10 defense. I'm good. But to be the number 1 defense in the country now, I'm still going to go with Julian. But man, it's so close for me. But Julian has just been phenomenal. And I watched the All 22 yesterday, and it really puts into perspective how difficult so many of these throws are that look so much easier when I'm watching him in the game. Like, yeah, of course he's going to complete that. Of course he's going to get that. And when you look at the play develop in the windows he's squeezing some of these into, and the split second that he has to make the decision to throw the ball, and then how fast it comes out, and then it's perfectly placed, and then he just, whatever, back to the huddle. It's just like, dude, what this guy's doing is so hard. And he just does it time after time after time. I don't care how much coaching you get. There is something different about what this guy's able to do than most really high-end quarterbacks that practice nonstop. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit special. A little something like, savantish going on here, man. It's something different.
Well, even after the first 3 or 4 games, I talked about how not just accurate he is, but he puts the ball in the direction the receiver is going. Like, he allows them to continue running with the ball. He doesn't throw it to your back hip so that you have to stop and then go. Like, he puts the ball in a position beyond accurate. He puts the ball in a position to be used and moved forward and over again. And to go like 36 for 42 against air, you would be impressed. And then to be able to count down like, well, this throw was tipped. This one was, three times downfield to Jeremiah.
Yeah.
Like you're going to take those. I think there's maybe one bad throw in there, and that was into the flats. It was odd on an RPO.
Yep. It looked
And
like
and so like you can do this for most of his games where you're just like, well, this one, this was a throwaway. The only one that was off was, he threw one that was inaccurate. And it's like, he throws about 2 inaccurate balls a game at this point, and it's insane. And especially like if you got to see him at all in the spring or in the fall camp, it's like, this was not the guy that we were seeing. And it's so to go from, but it's the guy that everybody talked about. It's the guy that a teammate said was there. That's the guy they were seeing. But when we had our opportunities, it's like we didn't always see that. And when you've got like Will Howard and all these guys saying, he's the truth, and then he comes out and shows it. So it's redshirt freshman doing what he's doing. And we saw that first game against Texas. He was the more composed quarterback. He was the better quarterback. He was the one that was like, this was not too big for me. I'm not worried about any of this. And after the game, the coaches were like, yeah, we probably should have given him more. We could have given him more. And I think, I don't think there's a point that, boy, we've given him too much. I don't think that's going to happen with him right now, especially with the way this offense is designed. Like what would too much be? Like 50 throws? Like, I don't know.
I think it's really, I'm glad you just brought that up, the whole Arch thing, Arch versus Julian. And it was almost like coming out of that game, the lead up to that and the lead up to the whole season and the whole Arch machine, even saying like after the game that Julian outplayed Arch was almost like a tongue-in-cheek statement. Like he really did, but everybody knew at the time that Arch was going to be the guy.
Mm-hmm.
And this little guy over here for Ohio State, nice little story. They're going to ease him along. We'll see what he's got. The dude's the best, man. And when we look at, I've watched the PFF guys. They rave about him every week, and it's just fun to watch them go nuts about him. So I'm having that dude on the show, man. That guy's so full of energy. I'm like, yeah, come on the show and tell everybody how great our quarterback is. But you got one of the top 3 quarterbacks in college football with the best defense in college football with a team with championship pedigree that's hungry as hell. It's the clear number 1 team. The schedule has not been great. I'm seeing people push back on this now. Like they want it so desperately to be somebody else. It really annoys me because I look back after 2021 and in 2022, Georgia was just basically celebrated the whole way through how great they were. And Kirby was the next Saban. And boy, buddy, you got to come beat the man if you're going to knock this is nothing like that. I don't know what it is about Ohio State. Maybe it's just annoyance. Maybe it's just that it doesn't fit the narrative of the super team's dead that they've been saying, or everybody has a chance to win it now. It's pretty clear that this is the absolute clear favorite, the definite number 1. If you can't see it by watching them, you don't know what you're looking at. And it's just, I don't care who they play, man. They could be playing D3 teams. Watching this team play together, like you know what you're looking at. This is a championship team.
Everything they're doing is more than enough, and they're winning by double digits, and they're controlling everything. And so, yeah, when other people, you're like, well, who else should be number 1? Like, let's talk about that. And that's just, we're trying to fill a segment. We're trying to write something, because who else should it be? Because, if you're looking at the rankings, is it Indiana? Well, they'll have an opportunity to find out. And they did have the win at Oregon, which is probably the best win of the year of among undefeated teams. And should it be Alabama? Well, I don't know. Should it be Florida State? Should it be Georgia? I don't know. Should it be Alabama? No, we've already determined that. So then I guess it should be. I guess it should be Texas A&M. And so I tweeted that something about that earlier today, this morning, and here I'll just read it for you. It says, until Ohio State is truly tested in fourth quarter 1-score battles against the likes of Auburn, Florida, and Arkansas, I think you have to question them as the number 1 team in the nation over a resilient Texas A&M team that just finds ways to win. And I can tell you, the 400 plus comments, most of them are calling me an idiot. And the thing is, like, yeah, it's a joke. You- Texas A&M with all of these close wins against these bad teams. Like, is that the number one team? Giving up 40 points to Arkansas, giving up 40 points to Notre Dame. Like, is that where we're going? I mean, I'm puzzled by it as well, other than the fact that this is the way it's always been. So it's
Yeah.
just like, it's when you live close to the train tracks, you almost don't hear the train anymore.
Yeah.
Ohio State lives near the train tracks.
I'm consistently amazed at it, and I try to remind myself of this every time. You cannot, even though like I think that's a hilarious joke, like you can't joke on Twitter. Nobody gets it, man. And they're always like they never get the joke, dude. How do you not understand? I said something so ridiculous the other day. Like it was so ridiculous, you had to know it was a joke. Nope, they didn't know it was a joke. Like, oh, what was it? It was, Kalen DeBoer. Pick Kalen DeBoer to Penn State. The sources on the ground say Kalen DeBoer is going to Penn State. And I was joking about it because Adam Brenneman had just come out talking about it. And I had a bunch of people saying I was an idiot. That'll never happen. Like Buckeye fans, like people who probably like have seen me talk before. Like I'm a bit of a jokester. And don't got the sense of humor or wit you do, Tone. And I really appreciate you joining me, my man. It's always a fantastic time cutting it up with you. So thank you so much for joining us on Buckeye Huddle prime time tonight. Appreciate you, buddy.
Always a pleasure. I'll talk to you later.
All right, man. Have a good one. My man, Tone, man. I'm telling you, I have been watching Tone for a long time. And I was thrilled to get an opportunity to be able to work with him and to be able to do shows with him is a whole lot of fun. Because I just, everybody has them. You find somebody like, man, that guy's sense of humor just gets me. Like I just love it. And I love working with him and I love doing shows with him. It's always so much fun. Here we go. Jersey Buckeye. Did you guys hear Kalen DeBoer is going to Penn State? So I made that joke the other day. It was in a joking manner that the sources on the ground at Penn State, and I was making fun of this guy. He was saying that it was 247 sources. It was legit people. And they were saying that Kalen DeBoer was unhappy at Alabama. Of course, he was unhappy at one point. I imagine he was, they were trying to run him out of town. He's certainly not unhappy now. Everything's going great. And it looks like from his standpoint, if you're him, things are going to keep going great. The SEC is full of, good teams, no great teams. And if you can be that great team, you could certainly go a long way. He's got a quarterback. He's got an offense now with Ryan Grubb calling NFL plays that they're all having a hard time dealing with. Like things are going great. So why would he then go from Alabama to Penn State? Like they just have an outsized view of, I think, how big of a deal they are. Maybe we'll put it that way. Like some of the candidates I've seen him float around, like, dude, Mike Elko's not leaving Texas A&M to come to Penn State. First off, they can pay him whatever the hell they want at Texas A&M. And this guy's sitting here talking and saying, well, it was one of the 247 guys again, talking about Mike Elko is from up here in the Northeast and he knows the recruiting footprint in New Jersey. I'm like, dude, I like the New Jersey recruits we get. We take some from New Jersey. They're always good players, but it doesn't beat Texas. This guy's in Texas and he's got all the money he wants to pay him whatever he wants at A&M. He's got it made. He's not leaving. Then they're talking about reaching out to Marcus Freeman. Dude, Marcus Freeman wouldn't come to Ohio State. I mean it. He wouldn't come to Ohio State. He's got it made. Absolutely made. He's a living legend already at Notre Dame. He's got it absolutely made. Now they're recruiting better than us right now this year. And what I mean by that is they have now reached the upper echelon of recruiting in college football. Absolutely zero reason to leave Notre Dame ever. And he's revered. So, no, I don't think if Ohio State offered him the job tomorrow that he would leave. But he certainly didn't leave for Penn State. That's for sure. Mark, Chuck, why did that reporter ask Ryan Day for the Tegra backstory like he's a side character about to die in a movie? Dude, I could not believe it. So for those that didn't see, you go into this press conference on Tuesday and everybody knows what's about to happen, right? A couple of questions are going to get asked about Isaiah West, Bo Jackson, the running back hierarchy, and about Josh Padilla starting for Integra's spot. Padilla played 26 snaps, more than he has been playing, and Integra's limited snaps, they were still more than Padilla's, but not as many as he usually has. He was bad. He graded out the lowest. He had some penalties again. He got our little Julian hit. You can't get our little Julian hit, my man. You can't do it. I don't care how many starts you got. And he's had 24, a lot of opportunities. So everybody knows this question's coming. You start off the press conference, and the guy with the first question asked Ryan Day about Tegra. Only not about Tegra's play or about riding the pine, but about his backstory, that he's from the Congo and what a great guy he is. And just tell us more about about Tegra, the man, and about his family. And Ryan Day goes into it, talking about recruiting and going to their family and how proud they are to be from Congo. And they're a professional family, and their Tegra loved Ohio State, and he had Ohio State on the TV on a loop. Question ends, you span to the next poor sap, and he's got to say, Ryan, is it about time to bench Tegra? Like, how could you set somebody up like that? If I had to ask the next question, I'd have been furious with hombre number one, because it looks like he set everybody up, or maybe he was trying to get somebody to not ask the question. I don't know. Maybe. Jay Fidd says, Tony kills it with his logic about each championship the Buckeyes have had since the 2000s. So deep. Nice, Tony. Tony's got a great way of putting things down. Tony is thoughtful, methodical, planned, very much not reactionary. I'm very reactionary. I think usually after I react, that happens. Connor Stallions for Penn State. Connor Stallions, no joke, I'm sure believes that he could do it. He believes he could take on that job. He believes that people want to listen. They're doing a podcast now. Who's he doing a podcast with? That Isaiah Hull, that Michigan podcaster who runs Locked On Wolverines, and they do a podcast now together, him and Connor. And the fact that anybody who likes Michigan would listen to that idiot talk football and support him blows my mind. But they do. They sure do. It's something. Vegas knows. You're damn skippy, Richie. Vegas does know. Buckeyes plus 270, Bama plus 600. That's quite a gap. Mirko says, Sayin's pocket awareness, ability to create throwing lanes, and accuracy is elite. He could have handled more in that opener against Texas. Looking back, the Buckeyes could have mollywopped Texas. Absolutely. But, I can't stand these people that are saying, I saw a guy yesterday knocking Julian's performance against Texas. I'm like, are you a moron? The dude won his first game ever against a top 3 defense in the country, and you're knocking it. Like, I don't care what your numbers are. If your team wins that game, you lead into victory. Like, you nailed it. You killed it. So Mozart's Ghost Sayin has beat my expectations by more than the defense. Tony doesn't think we should be number one. Well, that's not what I got out of Tony. Lucas Oil Stadium, just an hour, but you can't afford the tickets. Oh, that sucks, bro. Lucas Oil, a good place to watch a game. Doug says Penn State should apologize to James Franklin, fire both coordinators, and bring him back. So I got an interesting conversation tomorrow morning on Juck on Bucks. Talked to Landon Tangwell, who was a Penn State offensive lineman recruited by James Franklin, played at Penn State, got an offer from Ohio State, and he tells the story about how he got his offer from Ohio State, which is a hilarious story that has to do with Chase Young. You'll want to see that. But he and I talk a bit about Penn State and the media and the way they've handled it, kind of turning on the Penn State fan base after they have for years talked about James Franklin and his failures. And now that the Penn State fan base wanted him fired and Penn State fired him, now it's all of a sudden not fair. I feel like it's very similar to what happened after the game last year. After the game, the media immediately was attacking Day. I mean, it was hardcore. And then when they realized that so much of the Ohio State fan base was turning on Day, they turned their guns and pointed them towards the Ohio State fan base. Then it was the Ohio State fan base they came after. They go after somebody, they hop on board. That's what they do. And they all look silly. They all look silly. So anyway, friends, this is no joke. I did my normal morning show today. Then I did an hour-long show with Landon for tomorrow. Then I did a recruiting show. And now I just did this Buckeye Huddle primetime. And I got to tell you, to be honest, my voice is hurting right now. So I'm going to wrap it up. We're at 1:10. Please like the show on your way out if you haven't yet. Make sure you subscribe to Buckeye Huddle Primetime, Buckeye Huddle period. Check us out on the website, buckeyehuddle.com. We're all over there. We got fresh articles every day. Tony writes a lot, man. He's fast. I can only get mine out maybe, 2 a week. But they're longer. They're longer, at least. You can join us over there. Check me out at Juck on Bucks tomorrow with that show with Landon. He is going to come on. He breaks down film. He's going to come on after the Penn State Ohio State game, the Tuesday after that game, break down some all 22 with us over at Juck on Bucks. So you'll want to check that out. And then the PFF guy, Dale, the PFF guys that are obsessed with Julian. I don't know if you guys have seen this. I played a clip of it on my show. It's hilarious. They go on and on and on. This is the best quarterback. Drew Brees, Joe Burrow. Like it's great. So I'm going to get this guy on. Not sure when we're going to record that, but it'll be fun. But anyway, I appreciate you guys. Have a fantastic rest of your evening, and I will talk to you soon. Buckeye Huddle Primetime out.